Hello and welcome to the first speaking tutorial on my YouTube channel. In this video we're going to be making this easy textured scarf pattern. I've made mine very wide, 15 inches, and a little bit shorter, 31 inches. You can easily adjust the number of stitches that you cast on and how long you make the scarf. This is a very easy pattern made with bulky weight yarn and large needles, and it would be great to work up for a gift, get a head start on your Christmas gifts, or as a charity project. It uses two easy stitch patterns, a easy ribbed pattern, and then the body of the scarf is worked in a waffle stitch. And I've just added this little shawl pin to keep it closed. At this size that I've made it, it will go around the neck about once. It's designed to work as like a neck warmer. But as I said, you can easily adjust it. So let's get into the materials you'll need to make this scarf. So to knit this scarf, I'm going to be using some Knit Picks Brava Bulky. This is the colorway Seraphim, and it's a kind of a dusty lavender color. It's really beautiful. This yarn is 100% premium acrylic, 136 yards, bulky weight, number 5 yarn, and I'm going to be using US 11 8mm needles. These are Knitter's Pride acrylic needles that I got from Hobby Lobby. This is my very first pair of these type of needles, and I really like them a lot. But you can use even long straight needles. You don't have to use circular needles like I'm using. And you also want a stitch marker, which is optional. I'm just going to use that to denote the right side of my work. Now I'm all about using your stash, so I'll give you the modifications or the pattern multiple if you want to make this scarf with a different weight of yarn. You'll just need to adjust your needle size and how much yarn you need. So to begin, we're going to cast on a multiple of 4 plus 2 stitches. So I'm going to be casting on 38 stitches. That's a multiple of 4, which is 36, plus 2 stitches for 38. I'm going to be using a long tail cast on. That's my preferred method, but you can use any cast on that you prefer. So I'm going to start with my slip knot, which counts as my first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to continue casting on until I get 38 stitches. And you will cast on any number as long as it's a multiple of 4 plus 2 stitches. So I now have 38 stitches on my needles, and now we're going to begin the welted rib pattern. And for the first row, which is also the right side of our work, we're going to do knit 2, purl 2 across until we get to the last 2 stitches, and the last 2 stitches will be knit 2. Now, on almost all of my knitting projects, I do a selvage, which is totally optional. I'm going to do it because I like that it gives a very finished edge, and I'll show you how to do it. There are no extra stitches, I just incorporate it into the pattern that I'm working. So this first stitch is a knit. Because I'm doing a selvedge, I'm gonna slip the first stitch purlwise with my yarn in front, and I do that on the first stitch of every row. But if you're not doing that, the first stitch is a knit. Knit 1, now knit 2, purl 1, purl 2. We're going to repeat knit 2, purl 2 to the last 2 stitches. Knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2, knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2. So continue this, knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2. Continue this until you get to the last 2 stitches. So we've made it to our last 2 stitches, and the last 2 stitches are going to be knit 2. Now as I said, I'm doing a selvedge. So normally this would just be a knit, but because I want a more finished edge, I'm going to do my standard selvedge, which is knit the last stitch through the back loop. And that is on every row, and it's just incorporated into the pattern, whatever pattern we're working. So this is our first right side row. Now we're going to turn our work, and the wrong side is really easy. We're just going to purl across. And I'm gonna add in my selvedge. So slip the first stitch purlwise with the yarn in front, and then purl all the way across. I'll try to slow down a little. I'm not used to knitting on camera, and also trying to think about what I'm saying. So I appreciate you bearing with me, as this is my very first spoken tutorial. You can let me know in the comments if you like this format better, or if you like what I was doing in my first couple of videos, which was just with the music in the background and the captions. So I'm going to keep purling every stitch across. So your last stitch is also a purl, but I'm going to show you my selvedge again, which is just knit through the back loop, the last stitch of every row. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to repeat these 2 rows. Now for sake of reference, I'm going to add my stitch marker to the right side, just so that I can keep track of this is my right side. And for the right side of the stitch pattern, we're just going to do what we did before. Knit 2, purl 2 across until you get to the last 2 stitches. And the last 2 stitches are knit 2. Knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2. Knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2. So as before, the last 2 stitches are going to be knit 2. So knit 1, knit 2. Now we're going to turn our work and work the wrong side of the stitch pattern, which is just purl across. Now you can continue working this welted rib pattern for as long as you like. Just these 2 rows. I'm going to work this pattern, this rib pattern, for a total of 8 rows. So I'm going to work it 4 more rows, or 2 more sets of the pattern repeat, for a total of 8 rows of this stitch pattern. And then we're going to move on to the waffle stitch pattern. So I've now worked 8 rows of the welted rib pattern, and you can see that it's created this nice rib texture. And now we're going to move on to the stitch pattern that is the main body of the scarf, which is the waffle stitch, which is one of my favorite knitting stitches. The very first row is very easy. We're just going to knit every stitch across. With this bulky weight yarn and these number 11 needles, this pattern really works up quickly, and a really great pattern for gifts or charity items. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with my finished scarf. Either put it in my Christmas gift basket, or give it to my local chemo center with a hat. This is a great pattern too if you're looking for a more masculine textured pattern. I was initially going to make it with a navy blue, but it just didn't show up well on camera. Okay, for the second row of our waffle stitch, let's turn our work and we're going to purl across. Every stitch, purl every stitch across. So we're ready to start row 3 of the waffle stitch pattern, and for this row we're going to do knit 2, purl 2 across, so I've done knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2, knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2. I'm going to continue this until we get to the last 2 stitches, and we're going to knit those 2 stitches. So this is very similar, this row is very similar to the welted rib pattern that we did. Knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, purl 2. So I've gotten to my last 2 stitches on the needle. I'm going to knit 2. Knit 1, knit 2. Now turn our work, and for the last row, of the waffle stitch pattern. We're going to do purl 2, knit 2 across till we get to the last 2 stitches, and then we're going to purl 2. Purl 1, purl 2, knit 1, knit 2. Purl 1, purl 2, knit 1, knit 2. So we're going to continue purl 2, knit 2 until we get all the way across to the last 2 stitches, and those 2 stitches will be purl 2. You can see, if you're more conceptual, you can see that what we're doing on the wrong side on this row is we're just reading our work and purling the purls and knitting the knits. If that doesn't make sense, you can just follow the pattern instructions. Purl 1, purl 2, knit 1, knit 2. Now we're on our last 2 stitches, and these last 2 stitches are going to be purl 2. Purl 1, purl 2. Now if we turn our work, you can just see that we've started to create the textured waffle pattern. So you're going to repeat those 4 rows until you get to the length that you desire, and then we will repeat the welted rib pattern for another 8 rows and bind off. So the first row will be knit, and I'll just do a little bit more to help you remember the pattern, and as always, you can find the full written pattern on my blog in the link in the description. And I would really appreciate you letting me know what other knitting and crochet tutorials that you would like to see. And I appreciate your comments about helping me improve my video and teaching quality in the future. So this row is knit, and then your next, you will turn your work and you'll work a purl row across, and then your next right side row, row 3 of the waffle stitch pattern, is knit 2, purl 2 to the last 2 stitches, and then it's knit 2. And then when you turn that row on the wrong side, it will be purl 2, knit 2 across into the last 2 stitches, and those 2 stitches are purl 2. So I'll see you back when you have completed as long as you would like for the waffle stitch pattern. So I have now knit 27 waffle repeats. So that's 108 rows of the waffle stitch pattern, and that gives me a total of 116 rows if you add the 8 rows that we did of the welted rib at the beginning. Now you can of course continue this waffle pattern as long as you'd like, but I'm ready to finish off, and so we're going to finish with 8 more rows of the welted rib pattern that we started the scarf with. So this stitch pattern is a 2-row repeat, and for our first row we're going to do just as we did before: knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. We're going to continue knit 2, purl 2 all the way until we get to the last 2 stitches of the row. And those last 2 stitches will be knit 2. So I'm going to continue knit 2, purl 2 until the last 2 stitches. So I've got my last 2 stitches, and I'm going to knit both of these. Now we're going to turn our work, and the second or wrong side row of this pattern repeat is just a purl. Purl all the way across. So this ribbed stitch pattern is a little bit easier than the waffle stitch pattern. And we're just going to continue doing these 2 rows. Knit 2, purl 2 across. Last 2 stitches are knit 2 for the first row, and then for the second row that I'm doing right now, purl across. You're going to keep working that for as many rows as you did the welted rib pattern to begin the scarf. And I did mine for 8 rows, so when I finish this row I'll have 6 more rows of that pattern to do. So I've now completed 8 rows of the welted rib pattern, and we're ready to bind off. You can bind off any way that you prefer. I would encourage you to bind off loosely. I'm just going to use a regular knitted bind off, but I am going to do it loosely to make sure that the edge has plenty of stretch. So you're going to knit 2 loosely, and then take the first stitch that you knitted, insert your left needle into the first stitch that you knitted, and pull it over the second stitch and off the needle. Now knit 1, and do the same thing. Insert the needle into that first stitch, pull it over the second stitch, and then off the needle. And continue to do that. If you're a very tight knitter, you can increase your needle size on the bind off to make sure that it's loose enough. You can see that we're creating this nice edge from the stitches that we've bound off. So you're going to continue binding off like this until you just have 1 stitch left. Okay, so we have 1 stitch left on the needle, and so now we're ready to cut our yarn and fasten off. Now all you need to do is weave in your ends, and you can block your scarf if you'd like, and add a pin as I did, or whatever else you would like, and you're finished. Thank you so much for watching.